Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought a simple Friday night could unravel everything I thought I knew about us. My name's Lucas. I'm 38 and I've been with Claire for 8 years. We met at a friend's dinner party in London, and I knew from the moment she laughed at my terrible joke about her cousin's dog that there was something magnetic about her. She had this energy, this warmth that made the world feel lighter whenever she walked into a room. I wasn't flashy or loud. I worked as a project manager, drove my own car, had a tidy little flat, and I thought that was enough to impress someone like her. Claire thought so too, at least in the beginning. The first few years were electric, not just physically but emotionally too. We stayed up late talking about everything and nothing, went on spontaneous trips and teased each other relentlessly during the day. I remember one afternoon when she called me just to say, "I caught the ice cream truck and I bought the weirdest flavor for you." I laughed for hours at how ridiculous it was. That's how it felt with her. Constant little sparks, little surprises that made life fun. But then, somewhere around year 6, things began to shift. The laughter started to feel forced. The little text turned into okay or lol, and I started noticing the subtle signs. The way she'd glance at her phone while I was telling her something. The quiet sigh when I came home from work. I told myself it was stress, work, bills, London life. I got it. But slowly the warmth I once knew began to fade. I tried to hold on to it. I cooked dinners, planned little outings, even tried leaving small notes in her bag just to remind her I was thinking of her. But her smiles became rarer, her touch colder. I learned the hardest lesson a man can in a relationship. When love starts slipping, it's not always dramatic. There's no shouting, no betrayal at first. There's just a quiet, almost invisible drift. That Friday night started like any other. I had planned something I thought she'd love. Nothing grand, just a small surprise, something personal. I had booked a table at this little rooftop restaurant that overlooked the Thames, the kind of place where you could see every twinkling light on the water and forget about the city for a few hours. I spent the entire afternoon preparing, picking out her favorite flowers, making sure her favorite wine was chilled, and even rehearsing what I wanted to say. I wanted her to feel special, to remind her of the spark we used to have. When I arrived at her flat, she was waiting, as usual, sitting on the sofa scrolling through her phone. I handed her the small bouquet I had picked up on the way over. She glanced at them, smiled faintly, and said, "Lucas, you know you're sweet, but you always try so hard. He never surprises me." My chest sank. There it was, the casual dismissal, the weight behind the words. It wasn't malicious, not at all, but it stung. Deep down, I knew she wasn't talking about me specifically. She was talking about the entire world of gestures, surprises, the kind of excitement she once craved. And in that moment, I realized the truth. She had grown immune to the efforts I had poured into us for years. I sat beside her, not saying a word at first. I watched her scroll, the light from the phone reflecting in her eyes, the faint smile she gave every so often that didn't reach her heart. I thought about all the times I tried to surprise her, from small notes to weekend trips. Every attempt felt like it had landed flat. Every gesture met with polite acknowledgement, but no real spark. And then, in that quiet, suffocating realization, a thought struck me. If I wanted to remind her what surprise felt like, what it truly meant, I couldn't do it with small gestures anymore. Not with polite dinners or flowers. It had to be something unforgettable, something that would shake her out of her numbness. I left the flowers on the table, untouched. I didn't say anything about the restaurant or the wine. She barely noticed. And yet as I looked at her, I felt a strange mix of clarity and calmness. There's a sharp kind of peace that comes with knowing exactly what you're about to do, and understanding why you're doing it. I wasn't angry, not yet. I wasn't trying to punish her or make her feel guilty. I simply understood that the magic we once shared could no longer be restored with small gestures. I took a deep breath, letting it fill my lungs and calm my racing thoughts. There was a night ahead of us, one I had carefully planned, one that would remain etched in memory for better or worse. And as I stood there quietly looking at Claire's back, her fingers moving absent-mindedly across the phone screen, I realized that this was the moment that would define the rest of our relationship. Everything leading up to this night had been practice, preparation, the slow buildup of emotion, and now it was time. I quietly walked out of the living room, letting her stay absorbed in her phone, and went to the kitchen. I grabbed the small box I had been hiding for weeks, the one I knew would shock her, but in a way that wasn't cruel, only unforgettable. I didn't rush. I didn't want this to feel forced. Timing mattered. The suspense, the anticipation was part of the surprise. I returned to the living room with the box in my hands, and this time, I cleared my throat gently. "Claire," I said softly, "I need you to look at me for a moment." She lifted her eyes, still distracted, eyebrows slightly raised. She murmured, voice casual, almost bored. That's when I smiled, the corner of my lips calm but confident, and opened the box. Inside was a tiny, elegant key. "Do you remember the flat we first looked at together? The one we almost moved into?" I asked. Her eyes widened just a fraction. Yes, I remember," she said, a little uncertainly. I leaned closer. "I went back there today. The landlord agreed to let me see it one more time. And I signed the papers. It's ours for the weekend." For a moment, nothing happened. She stared at me like I had just spoken a foreign language. Then she laughed, lightly, nervously. "Lucas, seriously? You never do this. You never take risks like this for us." That was it. The first genuine spark I had seen in months. Not from the restaurant, not from the flowers, but from the element of surprise itself. Her eyes were wide, a mix of amusement and disbelief, and for a moment I felt that old electric connection return. But I didn't let the moment fizzle. I continued, voice steady. I wanted us to feel alive again. Not just here, not just in our routines. For one night, I wanted us to remember what it feels like to be truly surprised and happy. She put the phone down finally and focused on me fully. Her laugh came again, this time lighter, genuine. She shook her head, still in disbelief. You actually did it. I didn't think you'd pull this off." I smiled, but inwardly I was relieved. Not because I wanted her praise, but because for the first time in weeks I could see that our energy, our connection, hadn't disappeared completely. It had just been buried under routines, distractions, and quiet disappointments. I handed her the key, letting her feel the weight of the gesture. "You deserve surprises, Claire," I said quietly. "Even if you think you don't. Even if you think nothing can surprise you anymore." Her fingers closed around the key. She looked up at me, eyes glistening with something like awe. Wow. I don't even know what to say. I've been so stuck in the same patterns, Lucas. I didn't even realize how much I missed this. The rest of the evening was a quiet rush of excitement. We packed a few essentials, hopped into my car, and drove toward the little flat by the river. The city lights blurred past, but for the first time in months I felt the tension in my chest loosen. Every glance at her made me feel that spark again. Subtle, not overwhelming, but it was there. She laughed when I fumbled with the keys, teasing me about my secret plans, and I realized that laughter, that sound, was what I had been missing the most. When we arrived at the flat, it was exactly as I remembered, cozy, warm, and filled with potential. We walked through the room slowly, letting the anticipation build naturally. I left the flowers on the table this time, not as a token, but as a gentle reminder that some things remain constant, even as surprises shake up our world. We settled on the balcony, the lights from the city casting a soft glow across our faces. Claire finally leaned her head against my shoulder, a rare moment of quiet intimacy. "I can't believe you pulled this off," she whispered. "I really didn't expect it." "That's the point," I said, smiling. "Sometimes you have to step out of the ordinary to remember what matters." And in that quiet, suspended moment, I realized something crucial, that the heart of a relationship isn't just in grand gestures or shared routines. It's in understanding what makes the other person feel alive, appreciated, and remembered. I hadn't done this to prove a point or manipulate her feelings. I did it to remind both of us that the spark we lost wasn't gone forever. It was just waiting for the right moment to return. By the time we finally went to bed, the air between us had shifted. There were no arguments, no tension, no heavy silences. Just warmth, a shared understanding, and the thrill of an unexpected surprise that neither of us would forget. That night I saw her differently, not because she had changed, but because we had both remembered what it felt like to truly connect. I drifted off to sleep with a quiet smile, knowing that while life would still bring its routines and challenges, there were still moments, carefully crafted, heartfelt and genuine, that could surprise her, and maybe even surprise me, in ways that mattered more than anything else.